Hello, this is Simon, and welcome back to the Underhand Free Throw. So, I wanted to do a quick intro here because originally, this segment that me and Ian are talking about, we were going to compare the Pacers and the Jazz and talk about who's more sustainable or real this season. But it ended up mostly being just a discussion about the Pacers and their surprising start early this season. And we haven't talked about the Pacers yet. We haven't had any videos or any podcast segments about them. So, let's just talk about the Pacers. Along with that, I also wanted to say it's been great that these videos are reaching a lot of people, but 99% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're enjoying the content and want to continue to see more of it, please consider subscribing. So with that, let's get into this video and talk about the Pacers. Is this thing that they're building real? Are they going to be good already this season? They certainly look like they're not going to be the worst team in the East like we thought. So let's give it a talk. So let's talk about a team we haven't just discussed in depth. And let's talk about another team that was supposed to be really bad that has looked okay to start the year. And I'd like to talk about the Indiana Pacers.
The Indiana Pacers. All right. What do you want to talk about the Indiana Pacers for? The 4-5 Indiana Pacers.
The main reason it's this team's in particular is because it's us. And, we did our predictions a little over a week ago at this point, but we were unanimous. Right? As unanimous as you can be with two people. The Pacers are going to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference. We both agreed on that, and we were far from alone. A lot of people were in the same camp. I think it's safe to say. I think the Indiana Pacers have slid under the radar a little bit as a team that, a lot of people are saying, like, there's 14 teams in the East that you could see a world where they're okay or they sneak into the play-in tournament. And then there's the Indiana teams. Pacers. And then there's the Indiana Pacers at the bottom, like the poor Pacers, they're clearly tanking. They clearly are so bad, in the race for Wembanyama. And yeah, they're 4-5 to start the season. Tyrese Halliburton has looked like a potential all-star to start the year. I mean, a lot of people were high on his future potential, years down the road. I don't think anyone saw like 22 points a game, almost 10 assists on efficient shooting coming as early as this year, but that's where he's been to start the season.
I think with the Pacers, in terms of why many predicted for them to be in last place in the East, was more about the lack of potential upside.
Yeah.
When you compare them to other Eastern Conference teams like Detroit or Orlando with some of their prospects in place, each of us, I mean, we picked different teams, but here's how Orlando has a surprise season. Here's how Detroit has a surprise season. I think looking at the roster in Indiana and also expecting some Miles Turner, Buddy Hield trade action at some point, the ceiling just seemed less high. I think why I sort of think of them as Spurs East is that their coach is Rick Carlisle. And for the same reason that the Spurs have been overachieving, it's just like, of course, Rick Carlisle is going to take a whole bunch of we've seen Rick Carlisle a million times take just scrap heap parts and build a very functional NBA offense. And he's got better than the scrap heap parts in Indiana. Like you mentioned, Tyrese Halliburton. I think a lot of people were high on Benny Mathurin, but I don't think people were expecting him to be quite this much of a flamethrower this quickly. He's just, I mean, he really just looks on fire out there. Not even in terms of he's shooting the ball really well, but he's also just sort of attacking, and everything is working out for him right now. And it's very exciting to watch. I was not high on Benny Mathurin in the draft. I thought he was a little bit undersized for the kind of game he had in the NBA, and he's just already completely torn those reservations to shreds, sort of thing. But people forget about Rick Carlisle. I think that's the big part of it, and I apparently finally started forgetting about Rick Carlisle because he is an absolute wizard at generating NBA offense. That have just give him a couple random players and he will figure out something. He's also really good with attacking guards. Like even
Mhm.
if you give him Monta Ellis, if you give him OJ Mayo, if you give him like, just random guys who can come off screens and attack, he'll be able to give you an above average NBA offense. That's exactly what he's doing right now in Indiana with more than above average guards like Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Benny Mathurin are all, really good offensive players.
Yeah, and I would say Benedict Mathurin more fits that like attacking guard archetype. As many points as Tyrese Halliburton is averaging, as many shots that he's taking, he's more of like a pick and choose his spots sort of
Yeah.
guy, more so than a just like dive to the rim head first every single possession.
Yeah.
But his shooting has been, I mean, he's kind of got like an awkward jump shot, and it's almost like it doesn't look incredible when you see him shoot, but it
Yeah.
goes in. I mean, he's 44% from three, and I'm kind of amazed by that myself because like yeah, form isn't everything, but like when you watch Tyrese Halliburton shoot the ball, you're like, okay, this is like late career Jason Kidd. You can't leave him wide open, but he's not like gonna pull up in your face. But I mean, he's been doing that. So, and I was pretty high on Benedict Mathurin coming into the draft, and this was one of those. I'm going to be like the annoying bring college basketball into the NBA discussion, guys, yet again. But like, this is the unfortunate part about the NCAA tournament because Arizona lost. Arizona, who was a number one seed in the NCAA tournament last year, and a lot of people had them as their pick to either make the Final Four or even win the whole thing. They flamed out. They got upset in the second round against an 8 seed TCU, and it's just unfortunate that people didn't get to like see Benedict Mathurin on the big stage as much because like as a Pac-12 guy, I watched him a decent amount last year and like he was really the engine that made that Arizona team go. I mean, they had a lot of other talent on the roster. Fellow NBA draftee Christian Coloco was on the team, and they just had like a lot of solid veterans. Dalen Terry as well. So like
Yeah.
three NBA draft picks on the same roster, and then a couple of other guys who may get drafted in the near future. But like he was the heart and soul of that Arizona team. Like he was the reason why they were so good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like a relentless attacking offensive player, and just like plays with such a high motor. So I didn't see him being this good either, but I was high on him going into the draft. Some people had him as like kind of a sneaky dark horse rookie of the year candidate. I was like, maybe that's a bit far, but he's averaging 21 a game. He's still not starting yet. So maybe there's a world where Mathurin or Maturin, I think is the German pronunciation of his name.
Messerine.
Maybe there's a world where he wins it, rookie of the year.
Yeah, I mean he's got Paolo standing in the way of that, but I think he's firmly in second right now.
Yeah.
Wanted to respond to a couple things you said. One, hey, it's great that you bring some college basketball insights to the podcast. Definitely my biggest weakness. I follow the draft heavily, and I watch the prospects from an NBA perspective, but I watch no more NCAA basketball than I have to for that. So, yeah, appreciating your expertise here. The second thing is that it's what you were saying about Tyrese Halliburton's jump shot. Like, it's getting kind of, I think, embarrassing for all of us because everyone feels that way about his jump shot. And it's like there's just no track record of this guy not shooting 40% from three. Like
No.
his two college seasons, he shot over 40% from three. His 3 seasons in the NBA, all over 40% from three. Like, at what point are we going to get over ourselves and just accept that this guy can shoot, even though it looks goofy? Like, he's been one of the most consistent 3-point shooters in the world over the past 5 years. So at
Mm.
this point, we need to learn to accept that Tyrese Halliburton, despite the goofy form, is just capable of hitting a whole lot of the 3-point shots he attempts. And then yeah, what you say about Benny Mathurin, like it's like you say, it was all there in college. He was this like ferocious physical presence who could like relentlessly attack the rim and balance that out with some really like a really solid catch and shoot game. My only concern with him going into this is just like, oh, he's playing the sort of game that you need to be 6'7" to play in the NBA. And
Mhm.
I think he's just a little bit smaller than that. He's kind of like a skinny, long guy, and sort of has more prototypical two size. So I just didn't see him carrying that physical presence. But like again, like that take has been proven wrong with only 9 games into the season. Like he's like that's
Yeah.
clearly not an obstacle for him. He's able to play exactly the same way that he was able to attack at Arizona, and leaves the door open for more. Like that's a really solid floor to have when you're able to like attack the rim like he does and shoot the ball like he's currently shooting the ball. Like that just means like anything he adds on top of that is a bonus. He's already just like, okay, you're a 20 point per game scorer in the NBA with and you score at the rim and you generate free throws and you've got a good 3 point shot. So yeah, I mean he's the real deal. And do you think Indiana is going to kind of stay at this level right now, especially if they don't end up trading? If let's just say they don't find a trade for Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, do you think that we're looking at a team that actually like kind of fights to get closer to the play-in? The defense is bad.
Yeah. No, quite simply, I don't think that they're going to maintain like a 500 pace throughout the rest of the year, but I do think that they are going to get out of the bottom of the Eastern Conference, which, given how Detroit has played so far this year, maybe isn't that hot of a take.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, they're maybe an 11 or 12 seed, like kind of knocking at the door of the play-in. I think there are three teams in the Eastern Conference that are clearly worse, in Detroit, Charlotte, and Orlando. Unfortunately, I was high on the Magic going into the year. But like you said, the defense
Yeah,
has been really bad. Oh,
both our
sorry, keep
Detroit
going.
and our Orlando takes are like we were arguing over Detroit or Orlando in our Eastern Conference preview, and it's like
Yeah,
we just both lost that argument. Like
yeah.
they're just both as bad as it can be. Anyways, Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Duarte just got injured. Miles Turner missed some time to start the year, and he's been on the trade block for a long time. And he's in the final year of an expiring deal, and he's been seemingly on the trade block forever. He expressed his intentions to that he wanted to get traded earlier this year. It just kind of makes too much sense to move on from him, especially because they have a couple of young, promising bigs. Like I'd like to see Jalen Smith play the
And
five more
Isaiah
so than the
Jackson.
four, because Jalen Smith can't really shoot, but he is
Yeah.
like a really impressive mobile big man. So I'd like to see him more at the five. And yeah, and then Isaiah Jackson, who they just drafted last year. So it makes too much sense to move on from Miles Turner. And I think that's going to make the team a little bit worse in the short term, but better in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Turner is the only thing holding this defense from being probably by far the worst defense in the league. That they play 3 guard-sized players
Mhm.
around him. Like there's not like they played 2 bigs, and Miles Turner's also missed half their games already. So like that's a reason why they're like 26th in the league in defensive rating. But like he's there. If they were, I think if they were going to continue being like a 500 team, that would involve Miles Turner still being there. I do like these kind of like quick and fast sort of gazelle like bigs that they run at the sort of power forward position, or when Miles Turner's out there, they run both of them, like Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson. These kind of just like skinny, mobile,
Yep.
interesting hustle bigs. And yeah, I mean, it would be fun. I like Miles Turner. Every team kind of wants him. It doesn't seem like any team wants to give up a lot for him. He's an interesting trade piece. I feel like there at this point, there's no player that has been mentioned more in trade rumors over the past 3 seasons, and still nothing happens. It seems like everyone's hoping he's going to fall into their laps and change their teams, but no one has clearly forked over a big offer to
Yeah.
Indiana this far.